First and Goal 365 brings you the Legacy and Leadership Series every Monday at 7 o'clock p.m.
How you doing, everybody? This is Coach Kim Blocker. I was about to say one half of TDS Radio. No, it's not the radio station today. This is the podcast. Let me start that over. How you doing, everybody? This is your man, Coach Block, from First and Goal 365 podcast, the #1 podcast for player development, both on and off the field. And we have another edition of Legacy and Leadership. And of course, first, what we do is speak with our Marines because they are one of our sponsors for the event. And also, as I tell everyone, I want to make sure our parents and our players know every option that they can actually have outside of sports, because while we all know everyone's dream is to play on the next level, at times that dream does not necessarily come true. But that does not mean you can't get where you want to go, and we'd love to be able to give you some direction. So today I have with me Corporal Rodriguez. How are you doing, sir?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm here. I'm ready to do this interview, and I'm kind of nervous because you stepped up on me on this one. Now, I was doing the staff sergeants, and they were usually nervous. Now you're like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Let's go. I do this.
Yeah, that's kind of my lane.
That's your lane. Okay, cool. Well, then tell us a little bit about you and your lane. Tell us about what you do in the Marines, how you even became a Marine.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually joined the Marine Corps in 2019.
Okay.
So I was a little bit older. I was 25 when I decided to join the Marine Corps. I had done the living out in the civilian sector. I had done some different jobs and tried some different paths in life, went to college for a little bit.
Okay.
And at the time, it just wasn't the right fit for me. And I was kind of feeling a little bit stuck.
Okay.
Kind of feeling like I was kind of hitting a wall a little bit. And so I was like, I need something that's different. I need to shake myself up a little bit. And at 25, I was like, you know, I've always thought about joining the Marine Corps. Maybe I should do that. And then I kind of just sat with myself and I was like, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to. And then I'm going to spend the rest of my life going like, what if? Could I have done it?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I started in the Marine Corps.
Okay.
I got lucky enough to get an awesome job. We call it in the Marine Corps, we call it combat camera or comstrat. So I'm literally a photojournalist for the Marine Corps.
Okay.
And then in this role with the recruiters, I actually work all the marketing and communications for the recruiters. So I help set up things like this, like coming out on the podcast and set up stuff like this. So it's part of my role is to be able to communicate to the people that we're trying to reach.
Okay. So then do you think, and you know, we had a script, but sometimes when we get people who are more comfortable on the microphone, I'll go off script just because it's okay. So I can tell just by the way you stand inside the frame, not going too far away from the microphone, you're comfortable with the mic. So I can ask some questions that aren't on script. And the first question I have is because most of the staff sergeants that we have spoken to up to this point started younger and almost straight out of high school. Was there an advantage or a disadvantage by starting later at maybe 25 than someone who may start at, 18, 19, 20 years old?
Honestly, it kind of both. There was an advantage and a disadvantage.
Okay.
The advantage is I was a little bit older and a little bit more mature. So some of the more frustrating things that make the younger guys a little bit like pull their hair out with the military, like they didn't bother me as much. I was able to kind of stoically see through that and say, it is what it is. It's for a good cause in the end.
Okay.
And the hard part is kind of the obvious one. Being 25 as opposed to being 18.
Yeah.
I had to get myself a little bit more in physical shape because I had a few years out of high school where I wasn't in the greatest shape. Whereas these kids coming right out of high school, they might be in a
still
little
go.
Yeah, exactly. They could just start it right up. I had to work at it a little bit. So I was coming from a deficit on that one.
Okay. So if someone sees you only in your uniform, what might they miss about who you really are? So, at times people may not just come up to you and speak and talk about the opportunity, but then they may feel a little bit more comfortable when you're in your civilian clothes. So what may they miss by not having the opportunity to speak with you while you're in uniform?
Yeah, I think the big thing is that people see the uniform and they think that life ends at the uniform.
Okay.
We are all real people. We're not just Marines. We're also your neighbors.
Right.
We're also in your community.
Very much so.
Many friends of mine have kids. So when you go to your, t-ball game or your soccer game on Saturday morning, like the person sitting next to you might be a Marine too. Like they have real lives. They're real people. They're just as invested in the community as you are.
Yeah. So what's a misconception that people have about the Marines that you enjoy proving wrong?
I think my job is a great way to prove people wrong.
Absolutely, because I would have never known that until you said it.
Exactly. So I think I think a huge part of the population might think that, oh, all the Marines is the infantry. All it is the guys that stand on the front lines with big guns, you know? And while that is it's a huge part of these, obviously defending the country is a huge part of what the Marine Corps is about.
Yes.
There's so much support that goes in around that. There's so many different jobs and there's so many different things. Basically, if you can think of a job other than medical, if you can think of a job, the Marine Corps probably has it.
Okay. What's something from your childhood or your teenage years that shape you for where you're at now? So you had some time even coming out of high school and all that. What were some things where you're like, oh, I'm glad I either waited because this has me in a certain mindset? You had spoken to maturity before. So what were some of those building blocks leading up to becoming a Marine that you're like, this stuck with me? Maybe something even your parents had instilled in.
Yeah, I think for me, and it's super cliche because we're on a podcast talking about sports.
Okay.
But just playing sports growing up.
Okay.
It was a huge influence on me and my success so far in the Marine Corps.
Okay.
The Marine Corps by nature is a very competitive organization.
Yes.
Everybody in the Marine Corps wants to be the best at everything.
Okay.
So growing up playing sports, I grew up playing baseball, soccer, football. I even did martial arts for many years growing up.
Okay.
So growing up playing sports, I just wanted to be good at everything I did
at all times.
And it just it's just driven me to continue to push myself in the Marine Corps.
Right.
And I mean, honestly, it's not just the Marine Corps too. It's any job you have in life after you graduate from high school. Having that drive to be competitive and just be the best that you can be at that thing is so valuable.
So what did the Marines teach you about yourself that maybe you didn't know before, that it was like, this is now a quality that I'm happy because it came from becoming a Marine? Yeah,
I think starting all the way back from boot camp, you have those experiences where you're like, I really wish I didn't have to do this right now, but there's no other option.
Right.
Like, you signed yourself up for it. Like you have no choice but to follow through on that commitment. And so when the going gets tough, like the tough get going kind of mindset, I think the Marine Corps has shown me just how capable I am of doing hard things.
Okay.
Being able to look at a situation and go, I don't really want to do this because it's difficult.
Right.
But no one else is going to do it if I don't do it.
Right.
So I'm going to roll my sleeves up and I'm going to get it done, and I'm going to get it done well.
Gotcha. So one thing that is a common theme through each interview has been boot camp. What sticks out about the Marines boot camp? I mean, I of course you didn't go through any other boot camps, but what sticks out to you about the Marine boot camp, where the common goals that are common themes I keep hearing is commitment, discipline, and you're going to finish what you started? If anybody hasn't listened to Staff Sergeant Rachel Hoffman, please go listen to that, because she emphasizes millions. You're going to finish what you started. And I think that was something that's great, especially for our younger people to hear, because it's so easy to just say, I'll do something else. So what are some things that are just stand out about basic training for you?
Yeah, I think it starts first and foremost with the recruiters.
Okay.
Our recruiters are trained to do an amazing job at instilling a level of compassion and care into the potential recruits before they go off to boot camp, about how important it is to follow through on your commitments.
Yes.
So they instill that from minute one when you start working with the recruiter and you express, you raise your hand and you're like, I want to be a Marine. That recruiter is going to start working with you on that process to make sure you understand what the commitment is and how to fully follow through on that commitment.
Understandable.
Then you get to boot camp and you've got drill instructors breathing down your neck 24/7. Their job is to form you into the best version of yourself that you can be. And so the situations and the challenges that boot camp puts forth to you, both the physical, I mean, waking up at 4:00 in the morning. That's tough. That's tough.
Yes, it is.
That's tough for anybody.
Yes, it is.
And then the mental challenges too. They're gonna wait until you're exhausted, and they're gonna wait until you're feeling like you can't go any further, and then they're gonna look you in the eye and they're gonna go, do it again. Do more.
Yeah.
And so that level of just kind of they force you to kind of push through things that you perceive as boundaries. And so the combination of like the recruiter preparing you really, really well for that commitment, and then the drill instructor looking you in the face and saying, you have to do it again.
Yes.
You have to do more than you think you're capable of.
Yes.
Is a really just like winning combination to create some experiences that really reveal your true nature and that character within you.
So can you speak to a little bit about the relationship building that goes into the recruiter and the potential Marine prior to? Because some people think you sign a dotted line, next thing you know, you're in the office and you're getting ready to leave. What is the process of someone, once they say, okay, I want to commit, I met my recruiter, and then that time before you end up showing up at basic training?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it depends on the person, because every person has kind of a different journey into that point. But there's a process that you attempt to join what's called the delayed entry program.
Okay.
You know, a lot of people, another misconception a lot of people have is, you know, I'm meeting with my recruiter, I sign my contract, and then I'm out of there. I'm on the bus. I'm going to boot camp, and that's not the case. You know, there's some people that go very, very quickly. People that are already graduated when they join, they can go very, very quickly. But then there's some people that can be in the delayed entry program for up to a year.
Okay.
Just, you know, finishing school or whatever have you before they actually go off to boot camp. And so, I mean, the relationship building process, first of all, your recruiter is going to do everything they can to help make sure that, one, you're a good fit for the Marine Corps, and then the Marine Corps is a good fit for you. Okay. Because at the end of the day, every recruiter is a Marine, and we want to put people in the Marine Corps that we want to serve right alongside, and we can trust to serve right alongside us. Right. And we want to put the right people in the Marine Corps too. And then once you're in that delayed entry program process, they're doing everything they can to help make sure you're physically and mentally prepared for boot camp. So you're going to be doing PT sessions with them, with your whole group. Okay. You're going to be meeting with them. You're going to be talking about jobs. You're going to be talking about all kinds of different aspects of the experience of being a Marine. Okay. And then even after boot camp, a lot of Marines have the opportunity, once they come back from boot camp, to work with their recruiters for a few days or a couple weeks before they go off to their next set of training and actually like see the other side of it as a Marine and work alongside your recruiter as a Marine, which is pretty cool. Okay.
So the one thing that I'm hearing you say a lot of is just working together and working through things together and being pushed. And that also the Marines want to be the best. There's a lot of competition. But amongst this, what does leadership look like to you? Because it seems like everyone's a leader in their own right, but you still have to work amongst the team. So how does that dynamic work amongst the Marines?
Yeah. So I think, you know, going back to boot camp, it really starts with followership, right? At boot camp, you're taught how to follow directions, how to follow orders, and do the right thing when the right thing is told. You know, they say, you know, discipline is instant obedience to orders. Yes. Right. So you want to follow first. And then from that point, they are immediately developing those leadership traits. They want to see at boot camp who's going to be willing to step up and take charge to make those difficult challenges passable for everybody. Okay. So it really starts there. And then every step of the way, I mean, the Marine Corps does a great job when you're in the fleet, what we call the Fleet Marine Force. Every rank that you get, you have a military education course that you have to go through that teaches you different aspects of leadership. And it takes away your job. Okay. So while you're doing those courses, it takes away the thing that differentiates you from other Marines, which is your job, and it puts you all in one place and said, okay, we're going to focus on just leadership. Okay. We're going to focus on just becoming a good leader. So it's really just a development trait. Like the Marine Corps, it's just innate in us that in addition to being very competitive, we want to create leaders at every single level. Okay. Because we want anyone to be able to step up and make the right choice and make the right decision.
All right. We're going to pause right there because I got a coach calling in. So hold on. Let me hit pause. So we've been talking about leadership, and one of the biggest questions that I have is who has always impacted someone else? So who is a leader that when you were going through your recruiting process sticks out, even basic training, and then even after you've gotten your job, where these are the people or person that has really helped mold you and mentored you along this road?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a couple to think of. First and foremost, my recruiter. When I was going through the recruiting process, when I first decided I'm going to join the military, I had a very open mind, and I was like, I'm going to reach out to all the different branches. And I remember I got a phone call. I had filled out the form online. I had filled out the marines.com request for some information, sent that off, and I got a call like a Friday evening at like 7 p.m. Okay. And it was my recruiter. Okay. Right. And he was like, hey, you know, this is Staff Sergeant Jorgensen with the Marines. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. You said you wanted some more information. And I was like, he called me at 7 o'clock on a Friday. this guy go home?
Right.
And then he called me the next day too. He's like, I'm going to follow up with you. I'm going to follow up with you soon. I'll give you a call back soon after we did some initial, right?
Right.
And he called me back the next day, Saturday, and it was like noon. And I was like, this guy's working on a Saturday too. And then he set up my appointment, and it was for, I didn't have any availability that next week. So it wasn't until that following Saturday.
Right.
So I was like, okay, he's working on a Saturday again. And I got to the office, and the Marines shared an office with the Air Force and the Navy.
Okay.
The only one that had a separate office was the Army.
Okay.
And I went in there, and it was pitch black in there, except for the Marines office.
Okay.
Because the Marines were
the only ones working.
They were the only ones working. There's no disrespect to my sister branches, but they were the only ones working.
Right.
So that really stuck out to me. And from that minute on, I mean, just throughout the whole process, I could call him at any time.
Okay.
He would always pick up. He would always answer my questions. I would call him at countless amounts of random times and say, Staff Sergeant, I have a really dumb question, but I don't know the answer. And he would always tell me, no dumb questions. What you got?
Right.
And I would ask him my question. He would give me the answer.
Yeah.
Take as much time as he needed to be able to talk to me. So that would be my first. And then throughout like my whole enlistment and my whole time in the Marine Corps so far, I have another Staff Sergeant Vela, who really stands out to me. She was just such a motivating leader to me. She really pushed me to better my craft. Obviously, I said I'm a photojournalist with the Marine Corps. So a huge part of my craft is the creative side of things, is taking those pictures, capturing those moments that really tell the Marine Corps story. And I can't tell you the number of times where I would go on a shoot and I would come back and I'd pull up all my favorite pictures that I took on that shoot that I think really captured the essence of the Marine Corps story. And she would look at me and she would go, I'd have given you $1 if you had done it differently. And just challenge me every single time I came back. Just, hey, this is good. It's not great though. You know, and every single time just challenge me and push me to be better. It really stuck out to me.
And so just with that, and this was not one of the questions that's scripted. Like I told you, when you're comfortable with the mic, I ask questions that aren't on script.
Of course.
What is that look or photo or presentation that you're looking for when you are putting out work that represents the Marines? What is that?
It's a little different every time. It really depends on what I'm covering. But at the end of the day, my job is when someone who's not in uniform sees my imagery, reads my articles that I write, they understand not only what the Marine Corps is, but who that Marine is. It's to connect our people, our citizens, the U.S., to our service. Because a lot of times, once you join the service, there is that delineation. There's that separation between you and just your everyday people.
Yes.
Right. But we are everyday people.
Right.
So we want you to see that. We want you to see the sweat on our face when we're working, and we want to see the excitement on our face when something good happens. And I really want to capture that emotion. And I really just not only want to tell what the Marine Corps is doing, but who the Marines are is really important.
Do you realize the amount of pressure that I have knowing that the guy who is above this whole project also does the media for the Marines? So literally it takes me, you would be surprised how I'm editing things like, I don't know. Like the graphic that we put out for Spotify, I'm like, I promise you, I turned those graphics about 6 to 7 times each, maybe a half an inch, quarter of an inch, just to make sure, because I do understand that there's a certain level of respect that I want to make sure I'm giving to you guys, but then also making sure that we are telling the story and showing the Marines in that light that you're also responsible for doing.
And we really appreciate that.
Hey, man, thank you.
It's people like you guys that help us get our story out there and tell the public who we are and what we are.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Like that, because it's not, I'm not going to say it's nerve-wracking. That's not it. It's just a lot of pressure, because I do know that I'm like, man, the Marines are going to look at this and then he's going to share it with other Marines. And then there may be your mentor that's like, that sucks. Do it again. So, let me get back on script. But how can joining the Marines actually open the door for a young person? And what are the doors that they don't even know about that you just get the joy of being able to say, here's an opportunity?
Oh, it's awesome. I do love talking about this because I am truly the beneficiary of this. The Marine Corps has opened so many doors for me. Just baseline, no matter what your job is in the Marine Corps, just even doing 4 years in the Marine Corps, when you can put Marine veteran on your resume or on your CV, when you go to apply for a job, there's a level of respect and importance and deference that an employer will look at that resume with, because you've put the effort in to make yourself that level of professional of being a Marine.
Yes.
And then obviously, there's so many jobs in the Marine Corps that have such crazy unique skills that are so transferable to the outside world. Like right now, I'm not only doing photojournalism for the Marine Corps, but I'm also doing marketing and communications. And those are just great transferable skills that when I do decide to get out one day,
right,
or if I decide to stay in for 20 and retire, those skills will then transfer to be able to work into the civilian workforce. So from a job perspective, it's a huge way to open doors for yourself and also get that experience. You know,
right.
I was just actually talking with one of my senior leadership today about the Marine Corps Law Program.
Okay.
And how there's a lot of opportunity there, because when you graduate with your JD and you're, you know, a fresh new lawyer, you know, you're going to go into a firm and you're going to have to do a good amount of grunt work before you're ever to be able to do a case and be a case lawyer.
Yes.
But in the Marine Corps, if you have your JD and you join as a Marine Corps lawyer, you could be in a courtroom day one.
Oh,
like you,
okay.
in, 2 months into your career, you could be working in a courtroom, working on cases,
skipping over that paralegal grunt work.
Exactly. You get the opportunity. The Marine Corps, because they care so much about leadership at the low levels, you get the opportunity to do important work from a very early point. So that's awesome for that. And then on top of that, I mean, the college tuition that you can get through the Marine Corps, the GI Bill after you get out, there's just so many opportunities. The Marine Corps lets you really kind of forge your path while you're in, and then gives you opportunities to forge your path once you're out.
Right. So when you're talking to a potential recruit and you see that maybe their eyes are like, yeah, I want to do this, but then it's a situation where you might have to talk to a family, where it's a family decision. How do you handle speaking with the parents, knowing that, you know, you may be speaking to a younger person who they're ready to go, but you know, if you walk out the door, there may be the influence from others saying, don't do that. So how do you handle that as a recruiter stepping into a home with that dynamic?
Yeah, I'm not going to speak from personal experience because I'm not actually in that recruiting role, right? So I just kind of speak from my perspective of it. So first and foremost, I do everything I can to educate the family on what it looks like to be in the Corps, because I feel like a lot of times when there's hesitation, it's because of misconceptions.
Yes.
You know, it's people have an idea or a bias about what the Marine Corps is.
Yes.
And if we can dispel that a little, it makes the situation a little bit easier.
Okay.
But then at the end of the day, I would call back to my own family and say how much of a difference it made that my family supported my decision when I wanted to make that step and really do something what I thought and still think is amazing with my life, and do something so difficult that so few people are even qualified to do, and then even fewer actually attempt to do. So the fact that I had my family support was so life-changing when I went to boot camp and in this process of being a Marine, because I knew I had them behind me.
Yeah.
And I would just remind parents that at the end of the day, you know, this young individual is, you know, 17, 18 years old. They're trying to make adult decisions. And the last thing they need is for mom and dad to be telling them that all their decisions are wrong.
Right. Already out the gate. Yeah,
exactly.
So the last part I like to talk about is just the legacy, because you are leaving a legacy in your family and in your community. What does that mean to you to leave this legacy and footprints behind for those that are watching about just being a Marine?
I think it's really special. I have some background of military in my family, but I'm the only Marine in my family.
Oh, okay.
So it made it special for me to join the Marine Corps, knowing that I didn't have a history of Marines in my family. And so just being that example for future generations, you know, maybe I have a nephew or a son or a cousin one day that decides they want to join the Marine Corps, and they look to me as that example. And then on top of that, just like I said at the beginning, I really care about being a human being in my community. And so if being a Marine can be a good example for the people that I live near and who are in my community, then that makes the whole entire process worth it, to just be a good example to those that are in my community.
And so when the uniform's not on and you're just at home relaxing, just being Henry, what is the difference? And do you feel as though there's a difference when you take the uniform off and you're able to relax, or is it a situation where the Marine Corps has built in you qualities that no matter what, this is now a part of Henry?
Yeah, I think it's more of the latter. I think it's a little bit of both. You know, I definitely, when the uniform's off and I'm relaxing at home, I relax a little bit more. You know, I want to make sure that always when I'm wearing my uniform that I have that presentation and I'm as professional as possible, because I do understand and respect the fact that when I wear my uniform, I am representing the Marine Corps.
Mm-hmm.
But when I take my uniform off, I'm still a Marine.
Yes.
And I still represent the Marine Corps. So I still want to have that same level of professionalism and respect. So I really do think more than anything else, it's the Marine Corps has just still instilled values of, the honor, courage, and commitment, our core values, and then also that professionalism and respect. I want to always make sure that I'm keeping myself to that standard because I value that standard as being a great citizen, not just a great Marine.
Yes, absolutely. And then another question that I like to ask, I got two more. I'm not going to hold you. I promise I'm not going to hold you. The first question is because this is a sports podcast, I always try to find those different parallels to what you guys go through as a Marine, the discipline. And when you said waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm thinking in college, most of your athletes are waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
So what are some traits that are a direct carryover from athletics that move into being a Marine?
Yeah, I think number one, first and foremost, discipline, and more specifically, self-discipline. If you want to be an excellent Marine, or if you want to be an excellent athlete, you can't wait for somebody else to tell you to do it.
Right.
You've got to be motivated and disciplined enough to do the hard things, even when nobody's watching.
Absolutely.
I mean, look at the best athlete. Kobe's a great example of that in the basketball world. Who, he's out with the USA playing at the Olympics. Somebody's coming home from the bar at 3 o'clock in the morning. He's lacing up his shoes, getting ready to go for his second workout of the day. And it's like that level of self-discipline and commitment is what makes the difference between the Kobe's of the world and the ones that don't make it. And the same goes for the Marine Corps too.
Right.
If you want to be the best Marine possible and you want to continue to achieve great success, you've got to be able to put in the work when nobody's watching.
Right. And then the other piece to that question, like the B part of that question, is also about the academics, because I always emphasize, and the coaches I know emphasize, academics go hand in hand with athletics. But the same is also with a Marine. Like you still have to have some academic wherewithal about you. It's not just anybody rolling in. So could you speak to that as far as getting in and still your grades matter? Like that's the number one thing I want young people to understand. Your grades matter. It doesn't make a difference what you're going into. Your grades matter.
Absolutely. Easiest way to join the Marine Corps is make sure you graduate high school. So definitely go through, get those good grades, finish school. The Marine Corps as an organization too, definitely prides itself on education. I have had at every station I've been to, every job I've worked in the Marine Corps, I've always had leaders that have pushed education. I'm currently actually working on my bachelor's through the Marine Corps right now. So thank you. I appreciate that. So they definitely, it's of a high level of value. Getting further education in the Marine Corps makes you look better. When you go up for those promotions and when you're working to advance your career, it makes you look better. Even at the higher echelon level of the Marine Corps, at the headquarters level, every year, our commandant, who's like he's the chief of the Marine Corps. He's in charge of the whole Marine Corps. He puts out what's called his commandant's professional reading list. He literally puts out a list of 30, 40 books that he recommends every Marine read that year. So just to continue that education piece, because being a great Marine also means being an educated Marine.
Yes. Good. My last question. If you could leave this audience, both parents and players, one truth, what would it be?
Ooh, if I could leave one truth.
One truth. It could be on the Marine side or just something a value that you just carry, period. One truth.
I'll say this because it applies to the Marine Corps and it applies to athletes. It applies to everybody. If you go to bed every night feeling like you were 1% better than you were the day before, you've succeeded that day.
Oh, I think that's great. That is great. So make sure that you guys come out August 16th to the Bull City Jamboree that's going to be held at Durham County Memorial Stadium. And you're going to be there, right?
I'll be there.
So then you get a chance to meet Corporal Rodriguez face to face, hand to hand, shake his hand. One thing that I always make sure that everybody says is, how can somebody get in contact with a Marine, or what's the best way? So if they do happen to view this and they are interested in taking the next step, what do they do?
Best way, easiest way to get in contact with a Marine is go to marines.com. When you land on that website, there's going to be an opportunity for you to request more information. You fill out a couple little blocks, and then the system will actually connect you to the recruiter that is closest to where you live. So that's the easiest way to get in touch with a Marine. marines.com, request more information.
Cool. Sounds good. And next up, we have Southern Durham's head coach, Darius Robinson, coming up. So make sure you keep it locked right here.